Good evening, everybody. Well, we had to have an epic countdown for an epic guest, right? Well, welcome everybody to Palmetto Cats Live. As you can see, the studio looks a little different. I've been moving stuff around. I got some new gear, got a new microphone, got a new light. So I've been moving stuff around. My wife is awesome and got this made for me. What do you guys think of that, huh? How awesome is she? Isn't that awesome? So that was made by my pastor, and my wife gave it to me for Christmas. So I'm trying to change things up, and I'm not quite happy with what I got, but I hope you guys can see past the background. Some of you may think it's cool. Anyway, let's get moving. Tonight we have a couple of special guests, but both of them make up a new YouTube channel called EPIC CATFISH, and that's Tim Scott and Rashaan Liggett. And although they've been fishing together for a while, and Tim, his name has been around the catfishing community for a long time, the YouTube channel is only 2 months old, and it's already reached over 1,000 subscribers. Isn't that crazy? So we're going to get to know these guys. We're going to talk to them, and we're going to hear a bunch of really cool and interesting stories, I think. And I hope you guys will enjoy it tonight. Just to say hello to everybody, I see a new one, The Angry American. Welcome. Outside with the Haze, Brandon G, Mike Chavez, Finn Seeker, Weekend Angler. We got Chad, we got Cody, we got Muskrat, we got a whole bunch of people, Avid Fisherman. We got Jeremy, we got One Ton, whole bunch of people. Welcome everybody. Mexicat, Circle Hook, Mark Clark, the Bridge Man. Welcome. Before we get started, I just want to ask you guys to go ahead and hit that thumbs up. If you like what you've seen so far, you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, please. I would really appreciate it. We got Combat Carl, Trophy Catfishing, Shaw Avenue Fishing with JBT, Greenwell, Gadget, Bassin, whole bunch of people in here. Also, check out the links in the description for my guests' YouTube channel. Go check them out. You probably already seen them. Catfish, Epic Catfish. Go check them out. Stay tuned to the end. I have a special video we're going to play at the end, a promo for something that's epic in its own sense. So before we meet our guest, I'm going to play this little video. It's about 5 minutes, but it answers a lot of questions about who is Tim Scott, who is Epic Catfish. So stay tuned. We're going to watch that. And when we come back, we're going to get to talk to Epic Catfish. Here we go. Let me pull it up here.
The long road to Epic Catfish began in 1963 when my parents got married. I was born in 69 and I was a lot like other kids. I liked dinosaurs, had a dog, drank straight out of the garden hose, was always the cowboy, and always building stuff. But even back then, my favorite thing to do was scrounge around the local creek and catch anything that wiggled, especially fish. My parents took us fishing and camping a lot back then, and it stuck. I fished any and every chance I got growing up, and catching gigantic catfish I'd heard stories of was always on my mind. We didn't live on a river, and the closest shot I had at catching a real catfish was 3 miles one way by bite. But you could do that back in those days. I made that epic voyage every chance I got. Later, I did the usual high school stuff when you live in a small Midwestern town. Football, friends, and a good time. Most days when we weren't baling hay or working horses, we fished when none of us really knew what we were doing. After years of shore fishing, I bought my first boat even before I could legally drive. I soon began a trek of catfishing knowledge. Gravel pits and ponds soon led to fishing rivers, big and small. I watched every show on catfishing there was and read everything I could get my hands on. I found out most catfishing info back then lacked real hands-on experience. Being the science nut I was, coupled with the absolute love of finding and catching huge catfish, I did all kinds of theorizing and real studies on the behavior of big catfish. At my job at a local furniture manufacturing plant, I opted for more time off than a higher salary so I could feed my big catfish addiction. Armed with years of fanatical catfishing and lots of big fish landed from the Rock, Illinois, and Mississippi rivers, I set out to help others catch more and bigger catfish by putting out great information on the web, or interweb as it was called in those days. I started an online magazine called ProCats.com in about 1994 or 5 after I had met other catfishermen with similar interests during my extensive travels. It was loaded with information from vetted catfishermen who were valid experts. I began guiding for channel cats on the Illinois and its tributaries and trophy flatheads on the Mississippi. Soon after ProCats was a success, I got offers to go to lots of places such as the Xingu River in Brazil and be on television shows, radio programs, and even appear in books such as Secrets of the Catfish Pros by North American fishermen. After that, NAFC asked me to be a contributing editor on catfishing, and I gladly accepted. I wrote many articles for them over a few years, and I married my longtime girlfriend in 1999. Of course, the industrious kid I was, I had way too many irons in the fire and really felt the brunt of life after my first son was born in 2001. The growing furniture factory, my wife and son, ProCats, NAFC, and guiding was needing more and more of my time that I didn't have. God, family, country, community, in that order are my beliefs, and I made some tough decisions and moved on. I did summer guide trips on the Mississippi for big flatheads and blues and spring trips for numbers of big channel cats, and was booked so solid I slept in the truck at boat ramps sometimes for weeks in a row, May and June in 2006 and 7. As the years went by, I guided less and less, paying great attention to my job, family, and raising my children right. But I still went on adventure trips catching giant catfish and taking pictures along the way. My catfishing friends and I weren't really into video in those days, but some old stuff does exist of some legendary catches. The end of this story is the beginning of a new chapter directed by my long-time great friend Rashaan Liggett, known on YouTube as Catfish Heroes, is the only reason my channel, Epic Catfish, even exists.
Well, hello there, fellas. How are y'all this evening?
How you doing, Kevin?
Good. Well, we got Tim. Raise your hand, Tim. And we got Shawn.
Yo.
All right. Just in case somebody doesn't know you, just wanted to make sure that they got the right name to the right face. Oh, I really enjoyed that video. And something that struck me that I didn't hear the first time that I watched it was the order you put your priorities in. Would you mind starting off the show with that?
Yeah, the order was I had to really focus my life differently once I had children, because before I lived my entire life to pay my bills a little bit ahead, but go after giant catfish. And then I started filling it up with other things like writing for North American Fishermen, doing all these adventure trips, guiding and all that I explained in there. And ProCats was taking me so much time. There wasn't anybody to fill it. And it kind of broke my heart that I couldn't keep going with it because it was a big dream of mine. But I really, as my expenses went up, as life happened, and luckily the furniture company was one of those things. And that's why I mentioned my values, is because the furniture company itself, I had to look at it like, okay, am I going to work and benefit myself, or am I going to benefit my community? And it's what happened. I was able to design enough stuff that it went from 5 or 6 employees to several hundred employees, and the reach is far and wide as far as my little town and the surrounding community, stuff like that.
Well, I just like what you said. If anybody's watched my channel, they know that I put God first, and I just love that you said God, family. I just love the order you put it in, and I just wish that a lot more people would do that.
Country, community, yeah. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, Shawn Liggett,
Yeah.
how are you, man?
Doing good, bud. Doing good.
So we heard a lot about Tim just now. Tell us about how you got started fishing.
Well, it pretty much mirrors his story because I was a country kid living out here and fishing at about the same rivers he was. And I had grandparents that took me fishing a lot. I might even skipped a little school once in a while to go fishing with them. Fishing with them in the canal. And who can pass up sandwiches and zebra cakes, man? I'm going fishing. But but yeah, a lot of fishing, and yeah, I just continued being around him, targeting bigger species and making it more exciting. He put us all on these big fish, and now we're all addicted.
Oh yeah, he's got it bad.
It's a family thing. Even I got my uncle, my girlfriend goes with me. We go fish flatheads, and we make a deal out of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about how we didn't talk about in the video. You mentioned ProCat Magazine. You want to talk a little bit about how that got started, the short version of kind of how it got started. How did it morph into what it became, and then how it ultimately ended?
Kind of came, and that's why I did the video, because I could just talk forever about those little things that happen, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I mean forever. But to try to make a long story short, I was just disappointed back in those days. It was a long time ago. I'm kind of old. But, you go into a bait shop or talk to someone, and people held information really tight. They didn't tell you, this is what you need to do for flatheads, or, I'm like 18, 19 years old, 17, 16. And they would hand me a treble hook at the bait shop. It's about this big, and say, this is what you need to do. And you need to use this treble hook, and you need to put this much chicken liver on it and throw it at the base of the dam. And, I wasn't the smartest kid in the world, but I knew that wasn't true. So, I mean, in their story after story like that, and guys would, catch big flat accident, with, little twister tails and stuff like that. But really nobody targeted that. And then, I mean, you couldn't read a magazine and get real information. I mean, that real stuff that takes somebody years to learn. And so you could target big fish specifically. A lot of it was, let's just go for the eater fish, or, let's, fish local areas, or, like we had a little magazine thing that you could pick up at bait shops for free. And if you read that, they would say, well, flathead season isn't until August. And I knew better than that just from fishing. We don't even fish till August. And, June is the hot month where we're at, which is going to be different north. It's going to be different south. But if you're fishing flatheads, in the middle of Illinois in June, you done missed it, the hottest bite that there is. And so I figured out that either they didn't know or they didn't care, one of the two. So I just thought, okay, I'm gonna, and I did. I met a lot of catfishermen around the country that were really hands-on smart. They might not have been, writers, or they might not have been whatever, but I could, get information from them and edit that so that it told a good story. And if you hadn't noticed, kind of a story.
Yeah. So basically you took all this information that you were gathering from people you met, people you heard telling fish stories, and you just decided to put it in a magazine so that people could learn.
Yeah, so I had writers that were.
There you go. Steve Douglas just made a comment.
Hey, there he is.
Yeah.
And so and as luck, I'm not going to promise anything, but I just talked to my old webmaster. He called me on Christmas when I haven't heard from him for a couple of years, and he actually said we still have it all.
Really?
I said, well, great. We might be able to resurrect some of it at some point, and then futurize it. See what's going on in the future, blend that together, and maybe that'll work.
And that kind of leads me to my next question: how has social media changed the game in y'all's eyes? And I'll not that I need to elaborate, but for the guests, we're talking about magazines and actually print right now, and people paying for a magazine. Now you can pretty much Google or YouTube anything you want, and learn how to do just about anything you want. So as far as catfishing is concerned, do you think it's been a positive thing, or what's your, I'm not going to give you any more options there. What do you think about it?
Well, what I really think about that is I don't think it's any better or worse. I think it's different.
Okay.
Because even back in those days, of magazines, a lot of people were like, "Oh, that guy really knows what he's doing," and you go fishing with him, and you go, "Oh, really?" Not. I mean, it's a whole different thing between being a college-educated person that is an editor that takes information from somebody else. Because I've been quoted. There's been principles that have been left out. I did, and I'm not going to mention who, but I was some of the information for a large article, and I told the editor, I said, I need this to be about current more because that's the real truth. And when it came out, there was no mention of current at all. So I just know that there's some things, especially if there's only so much space, because really space is money in magazines like this. So they're going to say, well, yeah, we have to edit this down because it's too long of a story. And
right.
So I just said to myself, I'm going to try to do this, and put that out there. And luckily, there were some great people that I met that, I mean, they were spot on. They understood current, they understood depth, they understood cover at certain times of year. So that equation that I coined back in those old school days, as Steve Douglas just said, they really understood that. And if they could speak well, I was like, okay, why don't you, if you want to, why don't you submit an article or two and we'll talk about it on the phone. Back in those days, I used to almost have two phones, Catfish Hotline, we talk about it on the thing. And there was message boards. I mean, people talked on message boards. I don't know if they still do.
Well, if it's
they do.
If you're talking about YouTube as a social media, also including that, I think it's great. It's absolutely awesome. It's all information. You can bounce from one guy to another and actually see him doing it and applying all these theories.
Right. Right.
So
thanks, Mike Turner, for the super chat. I appreciate that, Mike Turner. $10 super chat.
We'll skip to the end of that video a little bit because I say that the only reason Epic Catfish exists is because of Shawn. And Shawn and I fished together for years. And he got into YouTube, and he's probably the biggest YouTube consumer that there is on.
I'm lazy. I sit around and watch YouTube videos. That's what I do. I do it at work. My boss is like, "What are you doing?"
He was constantly telling me, he's like, "Dude, you have to watch this YouTube stuff." And I'm like, "Shawn, I've already looked at it. It's full of terrible stuff." I said, I tried to get on it, and I'm like a boomer, like my kids like to call me. And they're like, I would find this stuff that was like, a Vietnam catfish that was like way out for like super.
Oh yeah.
And I would go down the rabbit hole of this horrible. I'd be like,
but once you find the pipeline of the good catfishermen doing that stuff and doing what you do.
And it's
amazing.
Started like sending me the right guys to watch. And I'm like, and as luck would have it, I started watching about the time COVID happened. and I was like, oh, this is way different than what I experienced.
Yeah, Steve Lewis is asking what Shawn's channel is. He goes by the username Catfish Heroes.
My channel's not even something I'm really plug or nothing. It's just a collection of a few pictures and stuff like that on there. But
And a lot of guys have like a YouTube channel just so they can watch and chat and stuff. And but yeah, Catfish Heroes, Steve Douglas. So tell me about stocking the James with blues, Tim.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm terrible with years, but I think it was somewhere around 1990 that the DNR stocked the James with blues. It could have been early, don't quote me on it. But I first met Chris Harris, which was a guide at the same time as Jimmy Weir was, that was in the In Fisherman thing that kind of made the James famous. And as luck would have it, they introduced blues and they did very, very well. But there was a ketone spill, and ketone is some sort of chemical that they had right there on the river. And there was a ketone spill. So they basically outlawed anybody eating fish for 10 years. and nobody really paid attention to them. According to the guys I talked to, nobody paid attention to them back in those days. Maybe there was guys that knew, but my circle didn't really know. But once they found out, there were even shark fishermen that decided they were going to go catch blues. And that was back when the state record was only 30 pounds, 26 pounds.
Wow.
And, I had friends that were just ounces away from the state record all the time. And they just couldn't get, somebody would catch one. And so it was interesting listening to those stories. But I mean, what a great start that the James River had in the beginning. If people just let them, and they were really big in the catch and release too. I mean, the guides and everybody else, they took a look at a lot of places that were hard on their resource. So they decided they were going to, really promote that catch and release, and it took off. I mean, it took off. And there was, instead of one or two guides showed up, people started showing up, people started spending money, and the resources, as far as I know, still there.
And so people keep asking, does he still guide? Does he still guide? And I knew we were coming up on that question. So number one, do you still guide? And then tell me about these crazy stories. I heard a story about you spending 28 days camped out at a boat ramp because you had so many clients. Is that for real?
That is that and I only did that one 28-day stretch. The next year I split it up a little bit, because showering in the river in the mornings was a little rough. And, sometimes I would have time to go to maybe a store or whatever, but I had a cooler food.
Did a little ivory.
Yeah.
The pits in the morning.
It was a little bit ridiculous, but no, sometimes you just do what you got to do. And I just, yeah.
So you literally camped in your vehicle for 28 straight days because you had so many clients.
Yeah. And I did it in May and June, 2 years in a row, but the 28 days was just one time. And I said, no, I'm coming home a few nights because I live so far from the river. I mean, I would be, an hour and a half away, not end it until sometimes 11, 12 o'clock at night, and have to be back there at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I said, I'm just sleeping here.
Now, were you married at that time?
I was. I got a great wife.
And you're still married.
I'll tell you stories. Okay, so on your home waters, we actually spent a day fishing during our honeymoon. Now there were 7 days of honeymoon. We went to Harry's Fish Camp, and my wife is not really into staying at what she would consider to be less than desirable places. And she went, good thing there's only one day.
I imagine. Yeah, I imagine back then those fish camps weren't much to look at. And some of them still aren't now, to be honest with you.
No, they were pretty much garages with some. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, my wife let me take her camping on our honeymoon, so I guess we both have awesome, epic wives.
Yes, we do. She's still awesome.
Paula. Yeah, there you go. Good boy. Miss Fishing with Paula Smith asked, how long did the EPA test the water after the chemical spill? Do you know?
I don't know specifics, but I do. The only thing that I really do know is that I talked to some of the people from out there, and they said it was off limits. Don Harris, yes, to the same one you saw on that.
He was. I mean, he had to ask.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a pretty likely question. So, yes, I did talk to the DNR about it. Matter of fact, if I go into this, it'll take too much time, so I'll try to make it really short.
Okay.
There was a pharmaceutical problem that they noticed first in the James, where the large fish that were both male and female, their gender was switching because of the pharmaceuticals that were not because right there, in Richmond, they had they had their water plant that was going right back into the river, and there were several water plants up, you know, in the shallower stretch. So she was doing research on that. She wanted to talk to me about it, and I told her, I said, I didn't really have any, you know, because we still had the ProCats.com site up and stuff like that, and there was some scientific things, but I didn't have anything to do with that. But she said there was evidence of it, that they both had, you know, both sexual organs in most of the fish.
Sounds like some Alex Jones stuff.
Well, yeah, it does.
It sounds like Jurassic Park.
Exactly. And I started theorizing a little bit about the rotund size of those fish, because if you look at different blues around the country, the James has even if they're long, they're very, very rotund. I would almost call them obese. But, you know, a guy that knows a lot about racehorses, he can see the difference in, you know, kind of maybe genetics, or he can say that's a great horse, or that's a different kind of horse, and they can look the same to most people like me. I kind of look at catfish. You know, I always study, you know, what's the silhouette of this fish between the Mississippi and James. Okay, I'm fish nerding out on you guys.
No. I was just saying in the video I just posted, one of my buddies caught a catfish, and we have different color blue cats in our river and even in the lake, but like we were catching these lighter blue, sleeker looking blues. And then he caught a really dark one with the arched back and really bulgy like eyes. And I said that looks like one of those big ones that people catch.
Now, I actually did a study in college on that color, where I would take blue cats that were pale and expose them to light, and in 3 days they go from light to dark. So that's kind of interesting. And I didn't just do it to one, I did to a bunch of them, because I had to, of course, have all the supporting information and all that stuff. But if channel cats do the same thing. You expose channel cats to light, which means they're up shallow. So in a turbid river, they have to be up really shallow, and fairly clear, they don't have to be up that shallow. They can be 10, 15 foot down and still get darker. It's kind of neat. They have melanin in their skin, just like we do.
So if they spend more time in shallow water, you can catch them out the same place, but if they've spent more time in shallower water, they're going to be darker.
Yep. The Clear Lakes out in California are a perfect example. Those things are almost navy blue to black, because the light penetration is so, you know, far in that deep clear water.
Interesting. So tell us about your thoughts on barometer and pressure. You know, there's some people that say, I think Muskrat asked that question. Some people that say it's a myth. Some people say that it's real science. What's your take on that?
Okay, I have anecdotal evidence, not really pure science. But
we'll take it.
The amount of huge flatheads that I have caught in prefrontal situations where the storm is looming on you and the humidity is high, the pressure is low, versus high pressure, bluebird skies and everything else. And I mean, I'm talking about sitting right on some of my classic spots and having that takedown. I mean, as you see a storm in the thing, and before you even get the fish in, we've been just hammered by rain. I mean, more times than I can count. One of my best anchors, and it is on the top 10 anchors list, and I did mention that in one of my videos, there was a storm on the Mississippi that had stalled just away. Now, granted, I had marked a lot of fish, but we hadn't really. We fished earlier in the day. It was still kind of bluebirdy skies, and they really wouldn't. You know, this was probably mid-August or early August. It's been quite a few years ago, but we had one of the most tremendous anchors ever, and they all bit at once. There was 3 guys constantly with 50, 60, 70-pound fish.
And so let me clarify something real quick. Hold on one second. So when he's talking about top 10 anchors, he's talking about fishing trips where you're anchored in.
But single trips, single anchors, not trips.
Right.
One single anchor. Like a different fishing trip or whatever, where we caught the most fish on one anchor. That's what I
gotcha.
Yeah, back to the barometer thing. It's legit. Low pressure, pre-storm, all that, and also consistent pressure, the rises and falls like that. You know,
so is that why people like to fish in the rain and cloudy weather a lot?
Oh yeah. And you know, we should talk about that because,
Go for it.
of course, this gets really complicated because in the winter time, with my experience in the winter, which is not a huge amount, but I notice overcast, the bite is less. The colder it is, it's less. If you get a nice warming streak, the bite seems to be better with channel cats and blue cats. Flatheads in our area are asleep. As soon as that water gets below 39 degrees. I did a study one time with a 1,000-gallon tank out in the garage where I kept 5 flatheads from 25 to about 40 pounds with a big biological filter and all this 1,000 gallons. And I put 40 live baits in there. And underneath 39 degrees, they never ate a single one in 3 years. So, you know, some people are going to remember when they were claiming that they would hit jigs and all that stuff. And I just had a hard time with it. I was like, I don't think so. I think most of this is getting snagged. And now I think it's a possibility, but I think it's highly unlikely. So for magazines and TV to push fishing wintering flatheads that are in piles, and I've seen them with my own eyes and underwater cameras, to push that, I thought was kind of irresponsible. That was just me. So I decided to either you know, prove or disprove it in my own mind so that I could actually have the evidence and then report on it.
So about more on the pressure. So is it as the pressure's changing, it's bad, or is it if it's high or low?
Well,
I'm getting questions in chat for you to clarify on pressure because it's a very hot topic.
Yep, I feel and I intellectually think. I split those because there's intellectual.
You're right.
Really,
you're right.
You can put so much information into an intellectual thought that it's too hard to convey. So what I am going to say is that I have my best success on numbers of big fish when the water conditions are stable for more than 3 to 5 days. So stable high, stable low as far as water, or just normal. I don't like that water jumping up and then jumping back down, jumping up and jumping back down at any sort of you know, whatever. I don't like the
temperature or depth. Okay.
Both. And temperature, depth, humidity, you know, all that stuff. I don't love it when you know, when you've got cloudy with a full moon and all of a sudden that goes away and then it's shining down on my flathead spot. Shawn knows. He fishes areas. It's hugely
I believe. I mean, I don't have scientific evidence, but barometric pressure does. I have way more success when a lower pressure situation. I mean, yeah, you can go catch fish when it's been high for 3 days straight, you know, but just mostly right after a storm, right in low pressure. And I know everybody else has seen that too.
Yeah, but you're in more of a. He's got the perfect petri dish situation, and one of these days we're going to do some films on where he fishes because it's basically no matter where you go on it, it's basically the same. It's all the same depth. The water never raises, never falls. It maybe affect a little bit, but you know. So if you throw out all those extraneous things that affect, which other people do as well, call them events. There's hardly any events where he fishes. So you really figure out the nature of fish if you can throw out all the extras and get right down to the root of that thing, that little E equals MC squared equation, and go, okay, well, we threw this out, we threw that out, we threw that out. So now we're closer to the actual behavior of fish at a basic level.
Barometric pressure isn't as much on your big river. You just need consistent depth.
Absolutely.
Weather, or as far as temperature.
Yep. I get excited. Now I'll go on any.
Just go fishing.
Andrew American said, below 30 on barometric pressure. I really don't pay attention to that. I'm kind of old school. I go by feel. You know.
Yeah, I got you.
I've got 2 sons. One is awesome about getting down to the nature of stuff because he'll go, hey Connor, you want to go fishing? He goes, nah. And Garrett and I, of course, we're like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's go all the time.
When Connor wants to go, it's good. When he says, yeah, and he's kind of in tune to that stuff. And I am too to a certain extent. But now I think my brain can overpower things and my work. You know, I think I can just overcome it. And a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I should have listened to myself.
You walk out in the evenings. If you don't go fishing, you walk out in the evening and go, man, it feels flat-heady out.
Yes, it feels flat.
Feel that
it's flat-heady.
Here's my arms stick up, and you're like,
yeah.
Oh, I should be fishing right now.
Yeah, it's the witching hour right now. What am I doing sitting at home?
What am I doing? Exactly. Oh, my wife hates that too. I could be in the car and that hot air that you know that it's coming in. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm missing it right now. I should have went.
So Shawn, tell me about the water systems that you fish in. He was talking about where you fish. Tell us about those.
Yeah, years back I was up there fishing with my son, and we were just having a fun day. I think he was like 7 years old.
Where is up there?
It's a little canal that runs through North Illinois.
It's a
North Central Illinois. Yeah, it's a canal. It's like a historic path. It's like a state water deal, and it has access all to these locks and that tow path there, and it's a place for the family, bicycle riding and all that stuff. So I was up there, and Tim goes up there every once in a while and catches some bait, and we ran into him, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and he came up and showed me how to catch bait. Said, hey man, are you looking for something to catch that's exciting up here? There's flatheads in here. I was like, yeah, I heard about that. So next thing, he hands me a handful of hooks and a handful of egg sinkers. He says, here you go. And the rest is history on that, because once I learned how to catch that bait, keep it alive, and present that bait, it was on. Because once I caught my first big one up there, I had to bring in family members, and we made it a thing.
Yeah, and the phone's been a great thing because, like I said in that video, we didn't really do video much, but we got kind of good at taking pictures because we've always are talking on the displays. I've fished the displays, but that's Redbeard right there from Hook's fishing videos, setting hook across the ice. How you doing, Redbeard? But no, I haven't really focused on the displays. I have friends that do, and I kind of know that the top end of flathead, like a situation that I want to choose to go to. I might in the future, especially if the Mississippi's flooded, but just to keep things short, when it's a little too far away for me to guide, so I really didn't fish it, but I have fished it before a couple times. So anyway, Shawn really kind of took off with that at the canal because you got to have perseverance to wait for flatheads to come to you when
this is a bank fishing scenario, and a lot of trucks get back. Yeah, bank fishing, and
well, we got a lot of bank fishermen, man. I mean, tons of bank fishermen that watch the show, and I think they'd be happy to know that.
So I like watching their live feeds because I spend hours doing literally what I do when I'm not fishing with Epic Catfish. I'm with my uncle 3 days a week. I got it so bad I catch bait at lunch, at work, and bubble bluegills by my toolbox.
That's what makes us work well together, because there's no challenge that's too much. There's no time that's too much. There's no whatever. I mean, we'll say, let's give it up because it's been 2 days since the bite's been any good. And it came down our backs, and we're still going out there and doing stuff.
Being older and having a family brings you, grounds you, and gets you back home when you should. Sometimes you got to know when to hold them, when to fold them, and when to go home.
That's right.
I stayed on a dam wall in my 20s for 2 days solid. Never left. It just never left. Because somebody was going to take my spot. And it really wasn't that great of a spot, but it was a great spot for me back then. Because you can catch flatheads here. I was not going to give that spot up. So boats that travel up there and go and try to wait me out, I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. 2.5.
Let's talk about
just psychos.
Yeah.
Let's talk about let's catch back up to today. You're making a YouTube channel now. You've been posting videos for about 2 months. You only have a handful of them, but they're all doing great. Let's talk about, the distance that you have to travel to go do these videos. Where you don't have to. I mean, obviously, don't give up your spot, but like you're traveling hours to do these trips, aren't you?
Yeah, we're traveling hours. We're staying at hotels. We're sometimes. I mean, since I'm old, I stay in a hotel instead of my truck, but a lot of times I'll and stuff like that. Yeah, 3, 4, anywhere. Like all of our videos, I don't think there's any of them close to home.
Makes me want to wish we could play some Seeger, on the road again.
Bob Seeger on the road again.
On the road again.
We do a lot of driving. Because the closest blue cat of any size to us is really about 2.5 hours away. And the later you get in the season, they start migrating down. So, the highest point is they can't really get through the dam very good because it falls 40 foot from the top. You guys are going to get to see that next season. It's kind of cool.
Awesome.
We got so much awesome stuff to show. He started the channel a little late, and we had all that blue footage, and we did really well. The blues really saved the season, but there's so much more that I'm excited for everybody to see. Just very interesting places, neat waters, crazy currents, and then beautiful, beautiful scenery.
And we're going to get a little bit more informational too, because right now we do these crazy psycho, fishing trips with music and all that stuff, like the beauty scenes and all that stuff. But we are going to get a little bit shorter in some of them and really pack it with some information. We're going to have a little bit more on science. I have all these plans, and I hope to make them come true. But, of course, I got to balance everything.
And this guy's only got how many videos out, and his body of work's not huge yet. So I think he's still finding his style and going to try to get everything just lined up, just perfect for everyone to enjoy, Some might say, oh, this is too long or that and the other. He wants to tell the story, but yet, make a good video. And
that's what I kind of want people to understand is that when they see a video from Epic Catfish, it's not like one of my videos. Obviously, when we're talking about fish, we're talking about different things, but I'm talking about where I can just take my boat 5 minutes down the road and put it in. And if I spend enough time on the water, I can catch an epic catfish. But you guys are traveling hours and hours. So when one of those videos pops up, it's a special thing.
Yes, and I've had a few comments that say, "Well, we don't want to, we don't want to watch the beginning, and like the boat right there, and my kid not wearing a shirt, eating a sandwich or whatever." And I'm thinking to myself, dude, that this is, it's the way I want to see it, and I'm kind of happy about it because maybe the first 2 days was really rough.
That's YouTube, brother.
Yes. And I get that, and I've left some of the fights long because it's ultimately up to me how long I leave a fight. But if you have a 45-minute fight on a fish, and you pop it into the boat from takedown to landing it in like 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, it just doesn't tell the story. And I'm a big storyteller, I guess.
Thank you, Bob from Jax. Welcome.
Nice.
Bob from Jax said he's subscribed. He says he's known you for 25 years.
Bob from Jax.
He says he's
maybe
no.
Jacksonville.
Jackson. Oh, Bob. Yes, I know. Bob from Jacksonville. That's right. And hey, Bob's a great guy too, and he's a heck of a flathead fisherman himself. He has sent me pictures of some big monster flatheads down there on the Altamaha and stuff.
Yeah, we love the flatheads, man.
He traveled all the way up from Florida to fish with me and John Weir, which is another guy that was in that video. And you guys will probably see him again because he's been a great friend forever. And wow, he was actually in the boat on my #1 top 10 anchor of all time. And there is a little bit of video of that.
So Realistic Fishing said, keep it realistic. And that just, he says it all the time. But when it comes to your YouTube videos, I'm sure that Shawn can tell you that there's so many haters out there that are going to find anything wrong with one thing that you do. And I've even told Shawn that there's a guy that's named Catfish Hero. That's a real big, and I thought it was Shawn. but you keep doing what you're doing, man. I regardless of whether or not your son's wearing a shirt, it's catfishing.
Never wears a shirt. He wasn't wearing a shirt this afternoon. I'm like, well, I guess I might not wear a shirt if I look like that too. But
he's gonna keep it realistic, but he's gonna tell a story. Yeah, because that's what he is. He's a storyteller. We all love our stories. We share them, and
we used to get back from a trip before YouTube. And they knew we were coming back Sunday. So we start getting calls. We start getting people coming over. we sit on the porch and we have some drinks and we tell all these stories and show all the pictures and all that stuff. Yeah, it's been a big we have like a little catfish culture going, I guess.
Yeah, so now you people, that's what you get to see is these stories.
Yeah, and Shawn said, he goes, you got to do this. You got to do it. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. Been down that road again.
Well, one of the first times I went big river fishing with him, and I was just out there, and just the scenery and just the intimidating river itself. And being out there and watching this guy work. And I'm like, man, it was epic. I didn't know it was epic then, but yeah. And I'm like, man, this has to be filmed. This has to be put out there eventually. Wow. So we started kicking around the idea of, hey, why don't you get some cameras, buddy?
There you go.
Yeah. I went to Walmart and bought a couple cameras and fumbled around and kind of got them to go. And we filmed some very terrible stuff in the beginning. Luckily, the river was flooded and the fishing wasn't that great, but it was terrible. It was terrible. So really the first actual stuff we filmed was the giant super monster, and my sons did really well.
All right. So you brought it up.
Let's talk about that.
Everybody's chomping at the bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about the super monster, big giant catfish. A couple of things I want you to answer in there. Did you ever think about it could possibly be a state record? What was it like fighting a fish like that? Did you ever feel like you're going to be drug overboard, et cetera, et cetera?
Let's go back to the state record thing.
Okay.
Now, I came to terms with state record 20 years ago because our state, still today, if you want to get a state record, you basically sacrifice the fish because they will not come out to you. There is no catch and release. I mean, I haven't checked in a long time. I don't know if there's a catch and release record now, but there wasn't when I was seriously interested in it. Because I've had blue cats in my boat that would have, beat the state record at the very least. When the world record was lower, I've had some in my boat that I thought was close. I definitely had some state record flatheads, but I revere these fish and I know how important they are and how rare they are because, I've fished a lot of places and, I don't want to see a fish die because I want my name in the record books. I'm just not about that.
Yeah, that's very respectable. Very, very respectable.
People can do whatever they want with their fish, but that's the way I think about it. You saw me in the video, and I wasn't doing it on purpose. I'm petting this fish. I'm thinking, oh my God, one of the biggest fish I've ever caught in my life, yeah, it's just amazing. I loved watching it swim away. I love knowing that right now it's probably 4 inches in girth bigger, which would probably flip the world record right now. I know, if it's still alive and didn't go into a hoot net or something, I really do.
It was a special fish.
And it was so the morphism on big fish. They don't fit. A lot of big fish don't fit that regular silhouette that you would think of,
right?
As far as like the atypical silhouette. I mean, this thing had an overly huge head and a giant jaw like that big around. I mean, it was truly.
It was impressive.
Like that, and it wasn't overly like obese in the middle, like a James River fish or like a fish that wasn't a river fish. It had like 2 inches like bit or sawed off its tail. I mean, it was a crazy creature. It was awesome.
It was awesome. Creature.
It seemed like you sent me several pictures of it. And the picture that I used for the thumbnail wasn't the best picture, but it looked bigger from different aspects. And I liked how the picture I chose where it's kind of turned, it looks even more massive than when you can see the whole fish. And I just think it was impressive. So you did some measurements. You did the girth and you did the length. What do you think? And at the end of the day, we don't really care. But what do you think the weight would be on that?
Well, I've taken a look at it a couple different ways. Now, I could go explicit, just the bare bones measurement with the basically bit off tail. And I've had lots of, and that sounds really, but I've had lots of fish in the boat that are between, like say 90 and over 100. Mm-hmm. And the tails on a lot of these fish are like this big. I've got pictures of them laying on my steering wheel, and it's basically covering half the steering wheel.
Wow.
This thing had a tail that was It was part of it was still bleeding. I don't know what bites a tail on a giant fish like that, but it was still like bleeding. It's all jagged. I've still got the thing. And so it was like at least missing 2 inches. Now, okay, am I hopeful? Yes, I think I'm hopeful. But minus the tail, doing that, it was basically 58, 59 inches long, okay? Which if you go just by that, 59 by 42, it's not going to be much over 121 pounds. But the problem is with a regular tail, and that thing was so girthy at, you know, from the head was so outsized. You know, I could talk about this stuff forever, but when it really comes down to it, I think that fish was somewhere around between 124, 125, and 130, somewhere around there.
That's crazy, man.
My eyes might be bigger than my stomach, you know.
No,
of course, I caught the fish.
But
I would never argue with anybody that said that's only a 100-pound fish. I'd be like, yeah, okay.
It's a massive lifetime fish.
It's a massive fish. I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I the beholder, I suppose, or maybe I wish a little bit too much. I don't know.
Tell me.
But it was heavy.
Tell me about the equipment that you're using to fish for these massive fish, and does your equipment vary with the current speeds that you're fishing in? Because the past few videos I saw where you're fishing in this insanely quick current that you have to tell your son to sit down. You know, that's crazy. Tell us about the equipment. Is it different?
I have to tell everyone to sit down.
Everyone, yeah.
Some people I will not take up into that stuff.
You didn't have to tell me. I was scared. You didn't have to tell me I was scared. I was scared. Yeah, dangerous waters. It was scary.
Hey, you can always tell when Shawn's eyes get big like this, and he looks around. He's like, "Oh boy." So yeah,
he'd love to fight a fish. I'd love to see Paula fight a fish like that.
I love to fight that size of fish. You know, and the fight is pretty incredible, but it can go south on you really bad. And I did leave more of the fights in that particular fish and the other ones because there's a certain way that I've found out that you fight big fish, and there's certain ways that you do not fight big fish in 40 foot of water and that much current. Because if it's 4 or 5 miles an hour current, sometimes 6 or 7, if you do not lead a big fish along the bottom, and I know it sounds crazy to a lot of you, because I was that way at some time too. I thought I was going to have to put the meat to this fish and get it in the boat and do all this stuff. But because most of the time
less is more.
Yeah, less is more. It's a lead, and I leave it in there. I lead it like a big dog. I say, just leave it like a big Rottweiler, because if I put too much pressure on that fish, he starts fighting me. As soon as he starts fighting me, at 100 yards behind the boat or 50 yards behind the boat, it's that much current. They'll start coming up in the water column, and the current's even stronger up there because at least along the bottom, there's little things here and there that slow that current down a little bit. So if I can lead them,
that makes sense.
The boat, and really, and I'm going to tell this story. John Weir, a friend of mine, he's a 300-pound ex-athlete. Hooks about a 110-pound fish in that spot in 2012 and literally wore himself out so bad because we didn't know really what, I could try, to tell him, hey, slow this down. But it was already too late. He's cramping up. He's 300 pounds. Rubber this rod. And he literally asked me on video, I seriously want somebody to take this because I can't do anything.
He handed it over.
Now, in John's defense, we had a little bit lesser of rods and reels back in those days. That was right before I switched over to pretty much the heaviest rod I could find.
Which is?
Like rod. They're called the brand name is a Surge rod, and I have the heavies, which a heavy is not like a pool stick in the top. The last third is actually fairly soft. They were actually designed for big fish on the Mississippi River, and they sell them in the Alton area. I don't know where else they sell them, but I bought 6 of those, and I bought Arsenal reels in the 50 size because there really wasn't any, say power line or anything thinner you could use back in those days. So I was stuck with 50-pound test. Well, you need a lot. Well, there's one right there. Go ahead and pick that up. This is right here. I mean, it's not the biggest reel. I mean, there's probably other big ones, but for freshwater, that's pretty darn big.
What is that reel again?
It's called an Arsenal. They used to sell them on Catfish Connection. I don't even know if that place does it still exist?
I have no clue.
Yeah. Okay. Back in the day, everybody ordered everything off Catfish Connection. And I think it kind of, I don't know if it disappeared or not, but I mean, you could get those pretty reasonable back then. They sell a 30, and I cannot, with 50 contests, I cannot use a 30 in those spots because I'll run out of line before I can get 8 to 10 ounces of weight and a decent sized bait in it.
Yeah.
Down at the bottom. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And so have you ever thought about, because when I saw your first video, which y'all are catching massive fish to my standards, then I know we talked before and you said, you know, you love catching fish. Both of you love catching fish, but when you catch those giants like that, you know, the 50s are kind of a letdown. You know, and I say that hesitantly because I don't want people to say, well, you know, 50, you know, I'd give my left arm to catch, you know, it's relative to their situation.
And we still appreciate
I still hold a 50 like it's a baby. I love him. I love to look at them, and they're beautiful fish.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I don't scoff at 50.
No, I know. I just wanted to make sure that people understood what I'm saying. We're talking relative to your situation. So when I saw you catching those fish in that heavy current, that I was just amazed by the current. I didn't care about the fish, but have you ever thought about like I was wondering why you didn't like have a clamp or clip or something to release the anchor to fight the fish? Is it too dangerous to get off anchor?
It is and it's not. It's one of those things that I usually don't fish it at that fast a current because usually there's other places to fish, but we don't, you know, you can tell in the video and a couple of them were like, yeah, I went downriver and nothing was happening. So basically these fish are focused on the fastest current they can get on some of those periods of time, especially when the water's low. So, and plus if you release the anchor right there with say 50s or 60s or 100s, the current kind of sweeps into the barge lane, which the barge lane is coming right out of that lock right there. And if you, I mean, there could be a lot of things that aren't good happen out of that. He's
trying to prep.
I would do it. I mean, I would.
We talked about I think we geared up with the anchor ball one of the last times we went down there. But it's so like you can never know when you go down there where they're going to be running the gates that hard or whatever. So you really don't know if you're going to need a big anchor ball in there or do all that, you know. It's just you roll in there, and if it's plan B, C, or D, and you end up there, you fight them. You know, you can get them in.
Yep. And once you learn that technique, and you see me with my kids every time, okay, I want you to
lead the fish.
That line is perpendicular. I want you to really brace, and I want you to pull up slow, reel down, and stop. It works for flatheads too. It was one of the greatest things I learned when I was young, and I learned it by trial and error, you know, because if a flathead gets up at the surface and like heavy current, look out, you know, and you can end up in the whatever. And then that sinker starts flopping around on the surface when they get up to the top, far away from the boat. And that sinker starts flopping, and that's when it rips the hook out, or that's when the leader breaks. Or
and what's the biggest weight you might use in that situation?
That situation, I've used 16 before.
16.
I've also
16.
Yeah, I've used 16s to get
it calls them coffee
cans. These aren't like straight down. Actually, when we caught the super monster, that was the slowest I'd ever seen that current, like in my life. That's what this clapping was about, because I had just thrown all those rods out, and I went, oh boy, here it goes. I'm looking at my kids like, get ready, get ready, get ready. And I literally forgot it was my turn. Oh, sweet. Trophy rods are still on Catfish Connection. So I forgot it was my turn. I'm expecting one of the kids to get it. I'm like, okay, I'll get it now.
Yeah, grab it.
Yep.
I did want to
grab it. Catfish Brothers was literally 10 minutes before that. We caught this big fish up above, locked through, went down, and the super monster's next.
That's great.
And then we proceeded to catch a whole bunch more that some of them didn't even make it on the video.
I want to get to one other thing. We're already at an hour, and we can go longer, but I want to make sure to get to this one thing because I want to learn about it.
Okay.
So I want to show this video. It's only a few seconds, but I want everyone to see it, and I want you to talk about what we're looking at. Let me get it queued up here. And so you're anchored in this video, correct?
Oh, we are. We are anchored at the precipice of a wing dike.
And so this is.
I will let Shawn describe that because this is one of the first times he saw this.
Yeah, this is what being down there and seeing this stuff.
I'm going to play it again. Keep talking.
What's that, bud?
I'm going to play it again. Keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, going down there and seeing this kind of stuff. You know, a bad fisherman standing on the boat looking at all this swift water and these barges going by, and just the current of the Mississippi here at this point, rushing over the top of this wing dike. And I believe like 14 feet of water coming over the top of a wing dike.
So the wing dike goes up like this. Can everybody see me?
Yeah, let me take this off the screen.
So you're coming along downriver, and the wing dike goes up like this, and it comes to almost a point. Some of them are a little bit flat like this, and then down here it's all rock. It's all rock that extends off the bank, and what it's designed for is it's designed to push current towards the middle of the river so it doesn't silt and sand in. So basically, we're stopping the boat, and it's 14 feet deep from where the back of the boat is. We're putting our lines down. Now, in that situation, we actually got to be above it, because if you do this, your stuff is way back. And if you mark fish on this decline here on the back side of those, and it's kind of a crazy situation because you'll hook fish. They'll take off this way. They'll come to the boat. Uh-oh, got a little froze. So they'll come to the boat, and a lot of times you think, oh, that's not a very big fish. And the first time he fished, I'm like, oh, yeah, it is. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, catch up to it. But by the time you're to the apex of that, and that current is going over there, it's compressed, and it's so fast on the hydrodynamics of stuff because it's rolling up and over, and you know, just the atmospheres, just the actual weight of that is compressing that current so hard that when you get that fish to the precipice right here, it stops. It just locks in. And it's like, and you got to get, I mean, it's going. And so you might, take a 70. How many times, Shawn?
Yeah, we had to switch off on a 70. We had a long rod. We know about how long rods are. They put the fight on you. We had to switch off before with our hands, lactic acid, not be able to hold the rod. And they're like, all right, your turn, buddy. We did actually, we let anchor rope out on one of them and had to go back and get one. But yeah, that's all the epic stuff that I saw when I was out there and catching 50, 60, 70 pounders. And I'm like, dude, you have to put this stuff on film. You have to show people this, and yeah.
What kind of anchor are you using? What kind of anchor?
I've used lots of different anchors in my life. Sometimes I had doubles. Sometimes I had 220s hooked together with chains because that first one has to dig into the sand, and then the second one, just to keep that down like this, would have to lodge into the rocks on wing dikes or whatever, or into the clay, the main channel. But my kids and my wife for Christmas a couple of years ago got me this monster hurricane anchor. It's like this big. Best anchor I've ever had because I've lost so many anchors because that stuff is all crazy down there. But this one, well, like a lot of them,
it's a breakaway.
It's a breakaway, and you put your zip ties on it, and as long as you don't tighten it. Yeah, and ask him how many times we've had to break that thing off. I mean, break the zip ties to get it back.
He gets it back every time, though.
Now, I have a pontoon boat, and, it'll pop a zip tie pretty quickly if I'm in good current. So how thick are your zip ties?
With
the monsters.
Wow. There's the big long ones, like that the heating and air conditioning guys use.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah, they're expensive.
Goodness gracious.
But hey, we awesome. Stuff too.
Yeah, it's not always. It's not.
I know.
But we are getting ready to do some like crazy big fast water, shallow water channel cat stuff next season because I focus on that a lot. We're ready to do some flathead stuff where I
love flathead hunting.
Oh, and I actually like flatheads, and so does he, better than blues in a certain way. I mean, I love blues.
Yeah, I love them too.
First time I took him blue cat fishing, he goes, "Hey, Just like big channel cats.
Yeah, we don't up here in Northern Illinois, where I'm from, we don't have blue cats out here. Yeah. People think you're catching blue cats because there's like a male channel cat is a little dark colored.
Or they go up shallow.
They have no idea.
Get sunlight.
But yeah, on those adventures on the Mississippi where the blue cats were and those wing dikes and those situations, him showing me that, I mean, I was just in awe. And it had to be on film. It has to be, this story had to be told.
And all right, so I normally don't do this. Because people get asked this all the time. But in this case, I'm going to make a special question. People, you always talk about personal bests, right? But when you're talking to Tim Scott, who's been around for a long time, you catch these epic catfish, and I want to know Shawn's too. Tell me, was this last fish, was that the biggest one you've ever caught, Tim? Blue cat?
The biggest one, debatable. It is a little bit debatable. There was another one. There was and I try not to even think about it because I'll start pitting myself against what my memory is. But I do know I've caught some longer than that fish, even at the 60 mark or 61.
Wow.
I've caught
a possible world record.
Well, yes, but usually my river fish are thinner. They are. Usually the river fish are not as robust as, like, a lot of times you see that world record and it's mammoth. It's usually not as long as the ones that I catch. I think mine are older. I win that. I win the older fish maybe. But it's just not as I mean, some of those fish are like monstrous. Yeah. And the ones I catch in the river are long. They're long in the tooth. They got those like 9 teeth in there that'll like razor blade you open.
Oh yeah.
Does anybody remember seeing the giant bite mark on my arm? That fish actually just mouthed me like this, and it was like this, like this.
Wow.
Like that. You can see it. If you notice it.
So my personal best blue cat's like 60 pounds. It was a beast, and I had to pull that thing over that dike with sore hands and arms. And then he's there telling me to hold it up, and I can barely lift it. 60 pounds on the blue, and I think like maybe a 42-pound flathead is my biggest flathead. And I'm with this guy, so I think that's going to go up.
I think it'll go up. Tim, how big was that flathead you were holding up in that video you made?
Nobody would even believe it. I'm just going to say huge,
because it looked like close to 100 pounds.
Oh yeah,
I think it's an 88.
It's close. I honestly think it was closer to 90, and that picture was taken by NAFC when we were down there, and it was amazing, an amazing fish. And wow. I don't even have any pictures of it myself. That's just the one that they published in the book.
All right, so Tim, what are some? So people are asking, like, have you fished Kerr Lake? Have you fished this lake? Have you fished this lake?
I have not, but Chris Harris did. Chris Harris, one of the guys that was in that video from like 1994 or whatever, 5, 6, he actually predicted that Kerr Lake and Bugs Island was going to come up with a new world record. Back then, I thought, wow, that's pretty intuitive, But those fish are monster rotund fish. You got 50, like 135 pounds.
50-inch fish, 100.
Yeah, 50, 52, 53-inch fish that should weigh like 90 on the.
No, don't be body shaming those fish.
Dude, that's a pretty
body shaming those fish.
It's pretty.
So what's a lake or a river system that you guys want to fish that either you haven't fished in a really long time or you have never fished? What's a place you want to go?
I'd like to fish the James again because I love the sunken Civil War era shipwrecks that they've got, and there's not a lot of them in like huge blue cat area, but there is a few where big blue cats will sit on. And I was just talking to somebody about that. So you've got a tidal river that at probably the middle to lower third, there's these shipwrecks, and you can still see them in low tide, just sticking up out of the water. They still have their wood and all that stuff. And Chris and I sat on one of those. We had 350s on at one time. We didn't even have one in the boat. It was a trip on 350s. They were like cookie cutters. That picture where the guy's holding 2 blues like this in the front of his boat? We had another one in the boat at the same time. So yeah, that was
wow.
Cool.
I'd like to go back to Wheeler.
I would.
We were just recently there, and the bite was kind of not hot, but the guys we were with they were absolute pros.
So that was last week. You guys were out there last week, right?
We drug over that lake.
Worked their tails off.
Yeah, we got some fish.
They're like these hard driving, stoic tournament anglers, you know. And I know one of their friends. We've kind of known about each other for a long time.
But I'd like to see them places. I'd like to see them when they're on.
I'd like to see it on fire.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see them on.
When the bite's not like almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know, we had the crashing this, and you know, nobody was catching any fish. And of course, it got better when we left.
Of course,
it always does.
Yeah.
Good, like Chickamauga and places like that.
Chickamauga's good.
You know, Watts Bar Dam, I've always heard about that. And those kind of places.
If you watch YouTube and you don't want to go to the TVA, something's wrong with you.
Yeah,
right.
It's where it's at.
And you know, if we had a bunch of time, we could talk about when I was trying to help get regulations, and even the TVA didn't have regulations, and it wasn't as good as what it appears to be now. Because once they instituted that 34-inch thing, it started to kind of take over. And you can watch YouTube now and watch the guys that are good, and you see an abundance of good size class fish. Not super monsters. There's a lot of super monsters.
How long ago did they do that?
You know, I can't really remember, but the 34-inch fish, according to a lot of people, you know, back in those days, was actually kind of big because it was heavy harvested. It had a lot of commercial fishing and stuff like that. So when they instituted that 134-inch fish a day, you can almost see it like you can in the north with walleyes. So if you got a 14-inch limit, a lot of the fish you're going to catch are 13 or 13 and a half. Extend that limit, pretty soon it jumps up like that. So there seems to be a lot of big fish. And I'm not saying.
Well, a lot of people don't eat the fish out there either. Just like y'all are talking about into James, a lot of people don't eat them because the water's contaminated.
The Mississippi's not good either. There's actually the Illinois River system and the Mississippi. There is a do not eat. That's anybody, not just pregnant women and children. Do not eat any channel cats over 15 or any flatheads over 24 inches. Now, I'm not saying people abide by that, and I've seen the toxicology reports of fish that are, you know, it's a list as long as your leg of crazy stuff that will never go out of the water system. It's bad. PCBs, mercury, methyl mercury.
Yeah, and you know, it's not really good to eat a lot of fish from anywhere, you know, to eat a lot of it. But I think, you know, here on Santee and our whole system, I'm so blessed to have a clean water source to where if we wanted to harvest a few, we could. And I think a lot of people take that for granted when you talk about as many waterways that you can't eat the fish.
And harvesting the smaller ones too, you know, fish with less concentration.
Yeah, sure.
Of chemicals.
Yeah. Well, fellas, you know, we could sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. And what I think a lot of people in the chat would love to see is if you guys did a couple live streams just to share your experiences and your stories. I know I would watch it.
We have a big learning curve for live streams, and as you see, this is a setup deal. I kind of made this desk because I'm a furniture guy, and I thought, you know, maybe we'll do some live streams, but I had to have my kids help me even set this thing up. It's just a webcam or whatever.
I'd definitely like to do that. I'd like to do it from here.
I would too.
You know, it's Illinois.
StreamYard. It's free. You can get a free version of StreamYard. A lot of people are using it. I pay for mine so I can do a little bit of extra stuff.
I think we got the criteria almost, don't we?
Yeah, we had to get StreamYard to get this even close, I think.
Yeah, well, when you're hosting people, you send a link, but it's web based. You just type in StreamYard to in your browser, and you make an account, and you're set up, good to go, man. It's super simple.
We'll try.
And I know we would. Everybody in chat, I would be in there. Because a lot of people are asking things that we just don't have time for, like what are your baits of choice, you know, all kinds of things like that. And I think that would be awesome for you guys to not only add content. Yeah.
Yeah, don't skip.
You know, you can interact.
There's so much information in the fights and between it. And we kind of comic around a little bit. We do some beauty scenes, but every single thing's got a bunch of information that I don't just stop point at the camera and say, hey, you need to pay attention to this. It's there if you want to see it. It's there by the angle of the line.
The bait catching.
The bait catching's there, the throwing the rods to the, whatever. I don't necessarily point it out. But if you pay attention, you'll learn a lot on those things of what I do.
Right.
People fish however they want to fish.
Yeah, if we could come down here and do it, and we could answer a lot of people's questions by doing our own live deal.
Might, pour some sinkers because
it'd be awesome.
I pour those big giant coffee can sinkers that are just dumb. They're stupid. I got an eye bolt in them. Like old school.
An eye bolt.
Nut, and then like this much lead. It's just like, giant piece of lead.
Yeah, everybody's agreeing with me. They'd love to see it. So everybody don't leave yet. We're about to bid adieu to our guests, but I have one thing to show you, and I guess you guys could watch with us. But before we do that, I did want to say thank you to both of you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. People are saying don't stop. Well, people got to work in the morning. People got things to do. I got to wake up early so I can go try to catch me an epic catfish.
There you go.
Maybe I'll have to have us on again sometime.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and you both have a wealth of knowledge, and obviously people want to hear it. We still got 99 people in here listening and watching, so I think we had up to about 110 at one point, so that's awesome.
I appreciate that because I didn't know how many people were going to care to, hear from some old guy from the middle of Illinois. I had to get Shawn on here to make sure he.
Well, they're here for Shawn, so
yeah, they're here for.
I wanted to quickly address too the awesomeness of the catfish community.
Yes,
great. The support people give each other.
Yep.
Jonathan Hooked Catfish originally shouted out my buddy here.
Yeah.
We were from Illinois, and I kind of just in the comments section mentioned something to him about, hey, my buddy has a little video. Would you go watch it? And if you do watch it, please leave a comment. He'll love it because he'd see Hooked in there, And Jonathan and him became friends over that, and he's met other people. And it's just been great, man. This has been so far a really exciting journey.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, and Jonathan's the one that kind of put me onto you guys too. So thank you, Jonathan from Hooked Catfish.
Yes.
That could be my YouTube channel of the week. Hooked Catfish. Go check him out on YouTube.
Oh, I agreed. Have you seen his flathead video? It's like end of the year.
I've seen all of them.
It was awesome.
I've seen all his videos. He's a great angler. Great angler. All right, before you guys go, before anybody goes, before I even pray, I want to show you this promo. Y'all, it's going to be something exciting, and it's only about a minute. So
you're building up, dude. Let's go.
Oh man, I'm building up. It better be good, right? All right, let me get the share button up here. Whew, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Man, I got goosebumps and I made the video. Woo!
I get it from that. You guys are all going to move in together into a catfish house and fish together all the time?
Yeah, we're gonna build a huge pontoon houseboat on the lake, and we're all just gonna live together.
Nice,
and just to make non-stop fishing content.
That looks. I'd watch whatever that.
And then Dieter just came in. Better late than never.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's gonna be awesome. Dieter, did you see it? Did you see the promo? There we go. Nice set. He cares about your set.
It's pretty fancy.
I have my top 10 anchor pictures right there, but you can't see it because you'd only see that.
Oh, yeah.
I made a poster. It's like this big, and I've been waiting for like years to put it up somewhere because the wife said I couldn't put it in the living room.
We'll have to do some live story corners in here.
There you go. And you can fill the whole, listen, you can fill the whole room with memories and things that prompt you for good stories.
Yeah.
And then you can film your live streams in front of that.
I got my port and starboard light. I got like
there you go.
Flathead mount up there. Then we have the Mr. Arowana that was a Christmas present years ago for the kids, and we got him. He was about 3 inches long, and now he's this monster that eats whole shrimp and stuff.
Well, there you go. Someone just asking him what fish are in the tank. There you go.
Asian arowana and a Florida gar, and the Florida gar stays out of sight and down like this because the arowana just all flies around.
Yeah, the promo is for something exciting happening. So I just did that to excite your imaginations. Well, anyway, y'all, it's been an hour of 21 minutes of awesome catfish talk.
Well,
really appreciate you guys.
If you want.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, listen, that's another thing I wanted to tell everybody. I've already told Tim and Shawn and a bunch of people. So I'm not going to be dedicated to Sunday nights anymore after tonight. There may be some Sunday nights that I go live. But after tonight, I thought it was fitting, the last live stream of 2020 for Sunday night to announce that I'm not going to be dedicated to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday nights anymore. I will still be doing live streams. In fact, I have a live stream this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. That's before Patriot Catfishers of America, so you can still catch both shows. I'm going to be reviewing the PC Fun Chaos line, the 40, the 50, and the 60 on a live stream. And I'll have the marketing director for U.S. sales on the stream live to talk about the company and to answer any questions that anybody has. So I'm kind of moving to a different, not genre, but just doing different things. Not only just interviews and the status quo, I guess I would say. And I'm going to be going live. Maybe it'll be a Monday afternoon. Maybe it'll be a Saturday at 6. I'm just opening up my options.
It sounds like freedom to you.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom.
When you're locked into a schedule, a little bit of freedom is nice now and again.
Yeah. And my wife and I serve a lot at church. So, when we spend 4 or 5 hours at church that day, we come home, we may get to take a nap, and then I'm back up to prepare for the show. And I don't want to put out junk. So, it's going to be, I'm going to be live all the time. So make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you hit the bell button with the little shaky around it so that you'll know every time that I go live. Awesome. So, as every night, I'm still going to end in prayer. So if you guys wouldn't mind joining me.
Sure.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for my guest tonight. I thank you for the opportunity to have this channel that you blessed me with to share my love for catfishing, my love for you, and just everybody getting along and sharing ideas so that more of us can go out and try to catch that epic catfish, Lord. And more than that, I just thank you for a country where we're allowed to do this. Lord, Tim said it: God, family, country, community, then fishing, Lord. If we get our priorities right, Lord, there's nothing that can stop us, because if you are for us, then who can be against us? And I just thank you for all your blessings. I thank you for my guests, and I wish everyone well until we meet again. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
Everybody, thanks for all the subscribers to Epic Catfish.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Leave comments. We want to hear from y'all.
The first one, Shawn and I were like looking at it going, holy moly, what is going on here? Because we expected to just kind of sit in the seat.
It's been an absolute blast, and this is part of it, man.
Yeah. And we're gonna keep,
if you haven't,
and we're gonna keep changing some things up, because I'm not gonna get on with just one system. We're gonna do, like we said earlier, we're gonna do some crazy stuff. We're gonna do some normal stuff. We're gonna do some every guy stuff. We even like smallmouth.
There you go.
for smallmouth.
Now you're going to lose them. Let's end the show while we can.
Yeah, we better.
Everybody's going to be starting. That's bait. That's bait.
And we're not talking about doing a lot of it, just a little bit.
On that note, everybody, y'all stick around until after I end the stream so we can I can say goodnight to you. Everyone else, thank you for joining us. Until next time, happy fishing.